an honor to introduce Chev. You know, it's funny, Chev, you have all these fans in BASK, you know, over here in the West Coast, which you probably didn't know about because you're Paddling the Blue podcast has been out there. And yeah, so you have a lot of West Coast fans. So I'm going to read the blurb that Laura Zolliger, who knows Chev, put out. She wrote that Chev's a rising star in the world of kayaking with several expeditions under his belt. And he is the director of Hudson River Riders, an organization dedicated to growing the sport, engaging communities of color in paddle sports, and creating opportunities for youth in nature. He has inspired thousands to get into sea kayaking and spread the love of the sport, including many members of BASK. So, and Chev recently did a 300-mile paddle called the Hudson, what was it? Hudson River Estuary.
Hudson Valley Challenge, but it's really we were covering the Hudson Valley Estuary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we'll hear about that in a second. Okay, so this is going to be like an interview format. I have some questions for Chev, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. But thank you for joining us so late. Although you're young, so it's probably not time.
I was laying here fighting sleep off.
So Chev, can you share how you first got into kayaking?
Yeah. So I'm Chev, or as my friends call me, or as my tribe or my spiritual roots call me, Negus. The Amharic word for king or royal bloodline, or whatever you want to call it. But to the paddling world, it's Chev, and everyone understands that. Anyhow, I grew up in Kingston, Jamaica. I spent a lot of my childhood between Kingston and the country called Trelawney. There's a parish called Trelawney in Jamaica, and that's where I got my first taste of nature. Then I moved to the U.S. when I was 13 years old, and I moved to Yonkers, New York, in between age 13 and 17 and a half. I played basketball, soccer, ran track, tried to play football, baseball, just the average sports that all inner city kids gets access to. But as I was playing basketball one day, I was getting into a fight with another kid, and he decided he was going to pull a knife at me. So he pulled out a knife at me, and that was the day when I decided I'm not playing basketball anymore, at least in the park. I'm going to find something different. So I, along with my friends, left the park that day. We went home. I told my older brother, and he was like, just don't play again. And don't play it again. It's like, what's there to do? This is, that's what I did. I played basketball. And so the next day we decided we were going to go and do something different. And what was different was we were going to go and just hang out by the Hudson River. We grew up in Yonkers, and in Yonkers, there's no access to the river. It's there, but the access, teachers don't know how to go about that, but you can see it. And so we decided our access was just sitting by the river and looking at it, as most people do by a pier. So we were doing that, and we were looking across the river, and I saw the Alpine Boat Basin. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with New Jersey or New York, but the Alpine Boat Basin is across the river from Yonkers, New York. Yonkers is geographically located about 10 miles north of Manhattan, right above the Bronx, on the east side of the Hudson River going north. That's where Yonkers is located. And I wanted to just, with my friends, we were pointing across the river and like, let's go over there. We thought there were restaurants, but there were no restaurants. It's just a boat basin. And so we were standing next to the Yonkers Paddling and Rowing Club. And then this man, he's my mentor. He passed away 2 years ago. Bless his soul, Jerry. We were standing by the kayaks, and we were pointing at the kayaks. We were all about 18 and 17. And we were like, hey, If we're like, if we get two of those boats, we can get across. We can cross the river with those things, and we can go to the restaurant and hell at Yonkers, because people just want to fight anyways, and, you know. So Jerry walked in through the gate and he saw these four kids standing by the fence and pointing at the boats, and he's like, "Hey, you guys want to try?" So I was like, "Yeah, I'm down. Let me try kayaking." And he opened the gate and let us in, and he let us in, and from there I just I liked it. I felt I was doing something different, and I was fulfilling what was inside of me, and it was to do something peaceful. Um, I wasn't raised to be a fighter or someone who wants to hurt people, so I figured kayaking just became that way for me to continue on that path and make my ancestors proud and my family proud, that I was doing something righteous in the community. So that's how I started out in kayaking, and the rest is history from there. Here I am now.
That's an awesome story. Did it stick for any of your friends?
Yeah, it stuck for Davin. It stuck. So Davin is still here, and he has been walking with me the entire way. He's just a lot more quiet than I am, so you may not recognize that he's there, but he's nothing has been accomplished or done without him being there,
Mm.
in his own rights. You know, so he's there, and my friends who um, didn't pursue kayaking as a lifestyle or career, they appreciate it because it motivated them to become doctor and the Navy SEAL that they are now.
Oh,
Um, so they were a part of that journey as well. And that's kind of the model that we have at Hudson River Riders. It was never to make new kayakers. It was never to turn a kid into a kayaker or force them to be or sell the idea of becoming a sea kayaker. It's always use sea kayaking as a vehicle to get to where you need to get to. And wherever that may be. And it doesn't matter what sport or what you do in life, just got to get in the water and paddle. It's a different environment that will most definitely open a different perspective. And that has been my model and my mission, is to just use sea kayaking to inspire and educate and motivate youth in my community to be better, not only for themselves, but for their families, for their friends, and be good functional members of society, because that's what we all are arguing for every day anyways.
well, that's a great segue for the next question about, so what's your current role with Hudson River Riders, or like, what are you up to these days?
I am now the director of Hudson River Riders. So I wear 100 hats at Hudson River Riders. I train staff, I train youth. I work with just the general membership if they need help or advice on developing paddling skills. I do grant writing, I do grant reporting. Um, yeah, I network, I make connections, I advocate, I promote, I manage social media. I do as much as I'm capable of doing at Hudson River Riders. But title is director of Hudson River Riders.
Okay, awesome. And can you tell us about your some of your recent expeditions, or about that Hudson River 300?
Oh, we call it the HVC 300.
Okay.
So the Hudson Valley Challenge. So we'll go back a little bit before we get on that. So growing up in Jamaica, I mentioned that I was in Kingston and Trelawney, and I knew I would go back and forth from there. And sometimes it's my own doing why I would always get bounced around, or sometimes it wasn't my doing. But what I've gathered from that as I gotten older is that I have the spirit to explore. And I have the spirit to be curious and learn new things and try them. And so I was working at the parks, the county parks, regular government job, the career kind of job that you want to secure a pension and work hard and have a family and do all the fun stuff. And but what's most important to me is that I care about my community. I care about the people. And if the people aren't happy, I generally am not happy. So I wanted just to get a bunch of youth from my city, from my town, who I know can benefit from camp. They just don't have the financial means to be in camp. Um, and I was the one teaching at camp, anyways. And because I couldn't meet eye to eye with the powers that be, I decided to resign um, and start camp in my backyard. I resigned to start camp in my backyard for free, the way I can. But as I did that, I was realizing, I was beyond that. I wasn't happy working there because it's not who I am. I can't be confined to one space. I need to move. I need to explore. And I said, okay, I'm just going to start a new career as an explorer. I didn't know what that means or what that meant at the time, but I decided I'm just going to explore. I'm going to figure this out one way. And so the first thing I did last year was something called a Kayakers challenge. There was a man named Mario Rigby who calls himself an eco explorer. That's his title. Um, and he was trying to cross Turks and Caicos, and he found my profile and wanted me to join him, and I did it. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm pretty good at this. I mean, I kicked his butt. Wolf for the sea kayakers. Yeah, who said sea kayakers aren't badasses? I mean, he built himself as a track and field runner. Um, and I was like, well, let's see if you can hang with the sea kayaker. Proved not to be the case, but nonetheless, it was a great event and great thing, and it inspired me. So I came home and I decided I want to do my own challenge and my own stuff and do things more locally and more sustainable. Because one of the big things about adventure is that we go on adventures and we fly a plane to Antarctica or to South America and use a boat to Antarctica. And we're not thinking about the pollution we make, the mess we make to get there. To prove sustainability, that's not really sustainable because many people will not be able to practice what you just did. And one of the big things for me is if I do something, I want people to relate and be able to put it into action for themselves. So I came up with the Hudson Valley Challenge to do this in my backyard where there's um, limited carbon footprint um, and a true sustainable expedition that anyone can do. You can adventure in your backyard. So I came up with the Hudson Valley Challenge. I mapped the course. It was 300 miles, and it started in the Battery of Manhattan, and it goes up to Albany by foot. So that's a run, a hike, and a 13-mile run, a 10-mile hike, and about 135 miles bike ride to Albany, and then get in the kayak and kayak about 130 miles and paddleboard another 20. The whole purpose of the challenge was to just inspire youth in my community to try new activities, and that's why I chose to do all of those activities. So they can see it's not just about paddling, it's not about running, it's not one thing, it's many things we can do. When we have options, we're better people. So that's what the adventure was about. So I did a challenge. It was not easy, but it was a lot of fun, and a lot of people joined me along the way as I was doing it. So for the run, I had some local running groups that joined me to run with me. For the hike, I had a friend, Glenn, that joined me for the entire hike. And the first day was the hardest day because it was thunderstorming outside and the wind was crazy. And it's like, why? But it was like the ultimate test, right? You say you want to be an explorer, you want to be an expedition athlete. Well, you're going to have to go with it. And a big part of this is I'm glad I was able to overcome the first day because it set the pace for every other day. But something bigger than that for the first day was when you say that you're doing something to show youth that there's greatness in them and there's more about them, the last thing you want to do is talk a big game and then don't show up, right? As I said to friends, and I've heard this before, it's like I've lost good friends on sunny days and I've made good love on rainy days. So rain or shine, you got to rise and go execute. So we made sure that first day was epic and it was great. So we did a run in the rain, and as we ran, the group got smaller and smaller and smaller. And then there was only two, myself and my buddy Glenn. And I asked him, "Are you sure?" And he said, "I'm with you, brother, all the way through." And I was like, "Okay, let's do this." So cold, shaken, but we kept walking. Lots of sliding, but we kept walking until we completed that day. And it's one of the best feelings in the world. And I get to tell youth about that and share that with them. It doesn't matter what your struggle is. It doesn't matter what the home situation has, the problems. You got to get through it. And when you get through it, it's going to be beautiful. You're going to love that you even gone through it in the first place. You have a story when you go through struggle. You don't have one when you don't. And people relate to stories. And that's how we go forward, through stories. That's the power. So that was first day. And from that day on, it was just pounding the pavement, biking, getting to Albany. I finished in Albany around 10 p.m. It was really late, but I biked the entire day. I couldn't stop. I had no interest in stopping. And I just wanted to get through that. And I wanted to get in my sweet spot. And obviously you guys know what my sweet spot is, right? The good old 17-foot Cetus.
No.
Yeah, I needed to get to that because that's when I know things are going to be good. I wasn't so sure about the run and the bike ride, but I know for a fact that when I get into the kayak, it was going to be really awesome. And I got into the kayak and I started one stroke at a time. And the destination was back to Manhattan. And back to Manhattan we went. And as I got down the river, more people started joining the fun. And it was really, really cool. And when I got to Yonkers, it was one of those moments. It's like, this is the dock I looked at and I wanted to launch from to go across the river. And here I am arriving at this same dock. And here we are with 60 people. We have members, just community members, elected officials, just there welcoming me, and it shows that when you do things like that with the interest of the community, it carries a lot of weight and it's a powerful thing to do. And people are genuinely interested in expedition and they're interested in a unique path that you take. And paddle sports is very unique. Kayaking is very unique. It's I think I'm doing a lot of work and I'm getting a lot of people out, but there's so many people that needs to be reached. And there's so many people that needs to try kayaking at least once. And we still have a lot of work and a lot of ways to go about that. But pulling up at the dock in Yonkers was awesome because the grown-ups were there, but the inspiration was from all the kids that were there, the kids that are in my summer camp, the kids that come to programs, kids that challenge me in the water every day, the kids that feel like they're faster than me in the boat, and all of these good kids, they were all there and it was just good. It felt good to see their eyes and how they lit up the way I lit up when Jerry said, "You guys want a kayak?" It's kind of that look I saw out of that. It's like, it brought me back. So it's good. And then the next day we joined by my good buddy Davin, who's been there the whole way. Couldn't have completed this kind of trip without him. Right by my side. So he completed the last day with me along with other people. And as I got down the river, people from the Inwood Canoe Club joined, Hoboken Cove, Pier 96, Downtown Boathouse, all joined me to complete the challenge at the Statue of Liberty and back. And when I got back to land in Manhattan, Pier 26, it was a massive group of people just waiting just to say congratulations. And, and and that's what it's about. It's about putting something out there, planning and executing, and letting people know we're serious with what we want. And I think that's what paddle sports requires. It requires people who are going to take it very seriously and do things on a real serious level, and push the right energy of the sport forward, and not try to hoard it. Make it, you have a lot of people out there with 35 boats in their garage and it's only one of them, and they never think or thought like, there's too much boats, but you can do a lot of good work here, but it's okay, it's still yours. So that's we just want to spread the good news and spread the message. And like in doing other challenges, doing other activities around paddling, I think goes hand in hand. It kind of brings people over because there's a lot of runners in New York City, and slowly bringing the runners off land into the water a little bit, off land into the water. And I feel like that's a good way to just easily introduce them to the water, because a lot of people have this big fear of the water, but when we show them different and easier way how to get out there. And my friend that walked through the rain with me, he's not a great swimmer, but here he is like, dude, the first day you go paddling, I'm coming with you. I can do that. So sometimes it's encouraging someone when they're going through their hardship on land will make them feel strong enough to come out and try something so different, which is a great thing. But yeah, the Hudson Valley Challenge, 300 miles completed. There will be a movie about it too. We did film the entire challenge, which I will be sharing whenever we finish cutting it up and getting the message out there.
Okay, that's great. Wow, I have like so many ways I could go with this. I love the multi-sport idea, because I know so many baskers, also cycle and do other things, and it seems like a great way, like you said, to draw in just different people. So okay, so the next question is, what opportunities do you see for the sport of sea kayaking to expand and become more inclusive? And kind of along with that, we've been really, really thinking at BASK about how do we diversify? How do we not just keep reproducing the demographic of the club already? And, we're struggling because we don't have access to a boathouse, and getting more, how do we get more people on the water and do that safely? So yeah, any of that you want to speak to, if you have any great ideas.
Yeah. Okay. That's where good stuff is. But so first thing I would say is, so my approach to this, when I can only speak from my experience and how it's worked for me, and it's worked for Hudson Riders. It's in the Yonkers Paddling Rowing Club, the average age was about 65 when I got there, and I can say now the average age is about 55, and that's 12 years of work. Still not where we want it to be yet, right? But it's working. And what we do, and the way to do that is to develop new younger leaders. When we talk about, it's about representation, and representation not just necessarily in skin color. That's just one thing that everybody tries to push as the main barrier, not necessarily real. But representation in language, representation in age. And the language part is important because, for example, I'm 30 years old, and the assistant director is 20 years old. How did that happen? I realized that I listen to the kids in the program and the way they speak. And I realized I don't speak their language. We all speak English, but I don't speak their language. And I'm 30. I don't speak their language. The language I speak is potentially a family, more funding. I'm not speaking about all the fun things that they talk about anymore. And in order to attract younger people and more diverse people, you have to present people to them who are on the same wavelength as them, who are going to help them feel more comfortable coming over. The kids think I'm strict. Here I am, a young man with a smiley face. I'm strict. But they do think I'm strict because there's a seriousness to how I do things versus how Alex runs things. And that's what it has been. My mentor, Jerry, he was willing to step away and push me in the forefront because he knew if I was in the forefront, the people my age will come and be there. And that's the same for everyone. If you want to see more women, then you need to put more women to speak and more women in charge. You can't be a dude saying, "Oh, I want more women involved and in charge," and then you're the one talking. Shut up and move. That's how it is. If you want people from the LGBTQ community, then you need to go and have people from the LGBT. And within that community, you need to diversify that whole community itself as well. The same as the Black community. I'm a Black man from Jamaica, a Rasta with dreadlocks. I don't relate to every African American. So my job is to, when I do find an African American that I can relate to, is to have him come in or her come in and connect with their community, how they connect. And that's what we need to give people. The way to diversify the sport and push it forward is to give people the platform they need to encourage their community to come forward. And that goes for age, it goes for race, it goes for gender, it goes for religion, it goes for everything. We need to put people in position so that they can encourage their community to come out. That's kind of how I look at how we diversify. I mean, I don't know what your geographic region is like or what your demographic is like there, and that's something I can look into one day and kind of give more concrete suggestions. But I don't know what that's really like. But looking at all of you here, it seems to me that you're a mixed crowd. Knowing Laura, she's pretty young. I think she's in my generation of paddler. So there's that. So you do have young, you do have diversity. So you do have that. And generally you do have level-headed people here. That's the biggest key. You need level-headed people. You need people that when Laura suggests or Beth suggests a new way, you gotta rally behind her and support the idea and go with it and put your energy behind that. That's how you diversify, and that's how create inclusion. Because on the outside, people are looking, and when they're looking at you, they're looking to see how willing are you to give up your power sometimes, but how willing are you to put someone else in position to make decision, and to move you forward. And on the outside, that's what people look for the most. Can't tell you how many times when I'm at Yonkers Paddling Run Club and people say, "Oh, how do you do it?" And I'm like, "I don't know, man. Like, I stuck around." That's also another part of this equation too. You need people, how do I say it? But you need people like me.
Mhm.
You need people who will not give up the fight. I was discouraged. You can name all the obstacles that was thrown at me. But it didn't make me bitter, it didn't make me sour, or angry. It just, if you don't really like me here, maybe you should leave. If you have like, this is not yours. Like, what are you talking about? And it's kind of like that. And sometimes it comes down to having tense conversation and calling people out too. But in terms of recruiting diversity, and I don't know if you guys are close to a high school, but I would suggest that connect with the high school and and see if you can work a deal out to create some programming for the high school extracurricular activity. Every kid needs that these days. The computers and the phones are getting out of control. I know firsthand experience. Um, Also, the community centers. If you I don't know if you have any police athletic leagues or you have any YMCA's or boy, any local community organizations, they're always looking for programs or different ways to get their young people out. And lots of times a diverse group of people or just younger people. So always look for partnership with different organizations doing the work. Because even if it's a gardening club, the gardening club, not kayaking, you're the paddler. So you go to the gardening club and you say, I just need you here for a day. I go around the community and whenever I see a kid skateboards, I invite him to go paddleboard.
Mm.
That's just my strategy. It's similar. Let's see if you can balance for real. Get on the river, test it out. I'm not taking away your skateboard. You can go back and skateboard right after, but I need you to come here tomorrow again. And again, it just like that. But so yeah, connecting with different communities and different organizations who are really out there doing the work, but it's similar, right? Garden experience is just like kayaking. You're enriching the mind, body, and soul. That's what it's about. You're connecting to the earth and to the universe. it'll hand in hand. So I would say that's the easy way to bring in more people. Look for running clubs if they're out there. People who are active are more likely to come into something else that's active and more challenging. And it's good cross training. So having the right story to tell and the right message to send, it's good cross training. Look for people who do heavy winter sports. They are most likely going to look for something to do in the summer that's more relaxed and to heal their knees, heal their back. Kayaking can do all of that for you. There's that too. So it's all about thinking outside the box, looking outside the box. But it all starts at home in your kayaking club. And I know you don't have a boathouse per se. So it's a little bit different because a lot of times having a hub in one location makes it easy, right? You have a permanent address you're sending people to. Go here, go, it sometimes makes it easy. But if you don't have that, it's you're gonna have to really get creative on a computer and create specific schedules and time and logistical and coordinate things so that when you do get a group to come in and want to participate, you can execute that as well. So yeah, that's the way I look at how to diversify. It's not a one person solution. It's a collective effort from everyone, and we all have to connect and find ways how to navigate it and help it. Working with anyone else that's in a different organization that's doing work, that's a way to start. Going to the schools, sometimes the schools are your worst enemy, because sometimes the schools, they just don't care. They don't really care what kids get to do, so it can get very difficult and get tiring, and people lose motivation sometimes on that. But that's a nice place to go as well. I have not once, and I'm telling you about the school, I've not once been able to cut a deal with the Yonkers public school system, but I've successfully found a way to get the kids out of there into the river, because they just are just not into that. The people who are the leaders, the people who, and that's your biggest obstacle are the leaders of the other entities. If they don't believe, you have a problem. And sometimes you just gotta put them on the spot. And the only way to get through, when I see the mayor of my city in any public space, I challenge him to come kayaking. I challenge him to come kayaking because I don't want to hear anything you have to say until you try. And when they say, "Oh, you don't. If you do, you would try it. If you really care about what I do, you would come and see what I do for real, and then form your opinions from there. But you can't tell me you support me if you've never tried. How is that? And that you're not disabled. You're able. So why not try? It's like you tell someone that, oh, your food is so tasty, but you've never had it. That makes no sense. But yeah, I mean, start with the schools, and I would say just the local organizations. That's a good bet. And I can understand when you're dealing with, if they were younger kids, not having a solid boathouse right now can make it a little difficult. But if you want to target a little bit older age group, older than teenagers, a little bit in their 20s, 30s, people who have a home, people who have a solid job, with things to do, we're just looking for something to do. That's another way to go about it too. And a lot of times they're in different meetups and different organizations, and you just got to have someone who's willing to go and spread the word and the message.
I love that, Chev. I teach fourth grade in public school, and anytime I share about what I did over the weekend, my kids always ask me, "Can I come with you next time, Miss Kim?" And it's hard not really having a way to take them or invite them, because it would be amazing. It's a language class for all Spanish-speaking kids. Haven't had that experience. That would be, I love that idea. So, okay, thank you. So, Tom, how are we doing on time? Do we need to stop and open it up to questions, or?
It might be nice to give people a chance to ask some questions. Sure.
Okay. So I'll just take raised hands. Anybody has questions or comments? Yeah, Tim, go ahead.
I'm amazed and pleased to hear what you're doing. It's fabulous. I'm wondering about the logistics. Do you have like a dozen kayaks and storage for these kayaks on the water that kids can come and try out? It's one of the challenges for us is we want to invite people and make it more accessible, but we haven't got the capital investment in storage and boats. How do you manage the equipment part?
Yeah, we do have in New York, all along the Hudson River, there's lots and lots of boathouses, and just old factories or land. So in the Yonkers Paddling Run Club / Hudson River Riders, we have 3 locations where we store kayaks. So we do have a lot of kayaks there ready to go, to get kids out. But I mean, I've gone as far as storing kayaks on a trailer in my backyard before. When I was going to quit the Yonkers Paddling Run Club and do my own thing because they didn't get it, I was going to store my kayaks in my backyard for a little while. And just when I meet kids, I tell them to meet me at the river and I'll pull up down there, we'll load the boats off, do what you got to do. Except that's just a lot more work. Rather, if you have a boat club with a hose, you can wash the boats when you're done and put them back and put them away. But yeah, that's how we would do it. But just got to start small. I'm not sure if you guys have, a stash of boats that are kind of public access that's owned by your kayak club or kayak meetup. If you don't have that, then that's another thing. But potentially, I don't know if you got. I mean, you're on the bay, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're on the bay, and is there development going on there? Like buildings going up?
It's pretty built out.
All of it is built out?
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm pretty
Well,
sure
it's not
there's.
entirely built out, but yeah, land values are ridiculously high.
I'm pretty sure that if you guys lobby or speak to your elected officials and explain to them the importance of what you're trying to do or what you're aspiring to do, I'm pretty sure elected officials love these kind of things because it makes them look great, especially the ones that are going to run for another term or for any race. They're your best friends. They're always going to do something to put themselves on the map. And that's always an angle to see if they can find the land or negotiate with a building owner to give you guys a space, or if they have a parking lot that they can just give you 4 spots, build some racks and put the boats there. There's all of those. They can come up with options. They know what they're doing. There's always options to put boats places. It can be, you don't need that much land. And you get a land that can hold just a single shipping container and just build 2 rows in there and you can have your boats laying on top in there and that's all you need. Get some nice decoration though. You don't want a shipping container. You want it to look cool.
Okay, Tom, you're gonna have to wait. Ellen was first.
So Chev, you mentioned that you write grants and you write grant reports and so on. So what sorts of entities do you write grants to? Who's funding the work?
New York State, DC. So they're one of our primary funders. I write grants to Westchester County. I also write grants to Yonkers, City of Yonkers. Then I write grants to LL Bean, to REI, different brands in outdoors. Wherever I can, I do lots of fundraisers, run raffles, partner up with different companies to run raffles. And that's kind of how we go about everything. We go in Yonkers, we see development happening all the time. So it's my interest to walk around the city and meet all of the developers and tell them, oh, you're moving into our town, in our city, and you're putting a skyscraper right here. This is what we do for the community. I'm going to send a letter to you later. And that works too. So there's many different ways. Or is there a factory on the river? Well, I'm pretty sure you had a stake in polluting it. So do the right thing and be generous and help recreate the river. I'm saying it nicely, but of course it's more of an in-depth letter, but that's what I do. I search for wherever I can find support, and there's, the only place I haven't gotten the grant so far is from the federal government, and that's because I just can't deal with that all the time. But that requires a lot more work, and it requires the full. And sometimes I don't want to bite off more than I can chew. Also, so I need to apply for an amount that I know I can report back, or I can actually utilize and report back. But yeah, so I'm pretty sure in the state of California, with all, there's wildfires. There's all sorts of money to educate youth and educate people, and there's all sorts of things out there. It's just a matter of hunting them down and finding them. And I'll be willing to look around in the state of California and see what I can come up with, and pass it on to Laura or in the group chat for you guys to look at. But yeah, I mean, honestly, writing a grant's not the hard part. It's reporting it that's hard. It's very tedious reporting it, but writing it is. But if you have a few people, it's not that difficult. If it's you alone, you have work to do. But writing it is not as hard as it seems, because you're just, you guys are starting out from scratch, so you're going to use your numbers and tell them why you want to change your demographic. That's all you're doing, and tell them markup, how much boats you want, paddles, life jackets, container. So a lot of the grants, I'm pretty sure there's a Department of Environmental Conservation in California, and they might have a grant system there for you guys. And I'm pretty sure that you guys can connect with them, and it might be a grant for infrastructure. And if it's a grant for infrastructure, they probably will want you to partner up with the city that you're in or the county that you're in and find spots. I know, and I'm speaking from what I see in the DC, because DC, they put out grants. They put grants for access, and they put grants for infrastructure. And the grants for infrastructure, you usually have to do a joint thing with another organization, and the city itself, because it's probably their land that you're going to be using, developing and stuff. But there's always, and if the state is giving grants out for these things, they're going to tell you the location and stuff. Obviously, they've done their surveys and they've done their work, so they know what they're saying. They just want someone to come take the money, because the money has to go somewhere.
This is really inspiring.
Yeah, it's it's just it takes a little bit of time, a little bit of work, but you just gotta chop at it and just keep doing some research. Just read a little bit around and see what's going on. But there's always hope. There's stuff around. That's why I have a lot of faith in paddle sports. Maybe when I move to the West Coast, I'll come join you guys for a little while.
No, that would be great. That'd be great.
But I'm due for a West Coast trip. I'm due. Well overdue. Actually, I was in Bellingham, San Juan Islands, about 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
I was kayak camping for about 8 days with some friends there. I was there, and then just last week I was in Vail, Colorado, competing at the GoPro Mountain Games.
oh,
Yeah, and that's kind of how I spread my message in the message itself of what's going on.
okay. We've got Tom, and then I think Richard after that.
Chev, I'd like to hear more about what you do in Yonkers. Like, what does a paddle look like? Where do you go? What kind of adventures do you have? Do you do any longer, like overnights? And what gets people excited there about paddling?
Yeah, we do. We have lots and lots of options for our community here. So many options. So we do instructor development. So we train kids to become ACA instructors, and we also turn around and we turn them, we use them as volunteers, and then as they volunteer for a year or two, we also hire them to be our staff later, and we have a nice turnover. So most kids will come in as a volunteer, and then when they get to a certain age, we'll hire them and we'll kind of help them move on into college or internships and stuff like that. Daily paddle, we do Wednesdays and Thursdays between 4 and 7 p.m. We do a free walk-up community paddle. So we get all the boats out, we put it in the cove, and anybody can show up and just sign a waiver and get in a boat and paddle. I do that up here in Yonkers, and I do that at the downtown boathouse on Tuesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays and Sundays at the downtown boathouse. Not at the downtown much. I'm more of a trainer down there. We'll talk about them a little bit, what they are and what their milestones are and what they have done in the last 10 years. It's pretty inspiring. You're going to be like, what the hell? But before we get to this, talk about Hudson River Riders. Hudson River Riders. And then we have a Friday and Saturday evening sunset tours for free. So on Friday evenings, 6 p.m., people come out, join us, and we take them on a tour up, down, or across the river based on what the current and tides are doing. We have the kids guide, and and then on the weekends, Saturday morning, we have race fitness. We do train. Yonkers Paddle Rowing Club is an Olympic club. We used to train them, so we still carry that whole history a little bit, although I don't like it much because they were not interested in having Black people and women there at the time. Hate it, but it's what it is. It's just US, it's history. Keep moving forward. And then, so we have race fitness, so we train a lot of kids who are aspiring to be racers. If they don't want to be guides and take others out and they just want to go fast, we have a program for them too. We have the Hudson River Explorers, which is the summer camp I started in my backyard. I've now pushed it into Hudson River Riders. So that's working with groups age 7 to 13. And we do more of a well-rounded nature experience. So it's hiking, a little bit of botany, learn how to make fires for the older kids. We run, hike, camp. We do that stuff as well. And then eventually we push them into paddling later. Paddle focus more later and explore through paddling. Then we also have a group of kids every year. I will draft 5 or 6, and I have a partnership up in Maine with a friend who works with the Maine Island Trail Association. So I will take them up there and we'll do an overnight kayak camping trip. About 5 days, 4 nights. We'll have some kids go out for the first time and see what that's like. And we do some of those in Yonkers as well. In New York, the ACA, the American Canyon Association, has a campground called Lake Sebago, or Sebago Cabins. We do take kids up there too, for different programs that we're having throughout the day. And that's also another part of how we're successful in recruiting young adults, because they love the idea that they can rent a cabin for cheap and go spend a night with a fire and avoid the city for a little bit. So that also helps. So it's just having a lot of options. But yeah, that's really the program that we have. And then we have members paddle. So the members who are there, who pays the membership, who really helps things and volunteer their time to make these youth programs go. We have lots of paddles for them. We have members training, skills training. We have about 7 different members tours, some going out in the morning, some going out in the evening as well. And as I said, we have 2 locations. So we have a location more in the downtown and a little bit up north. So we're able to use both locations and doing work. Down in the city, I work with the Downtown Boathouse, which is a much, it's completely voluntarily run, and it's a big organization. But it's really cool. I train some of the volunteers there. I'm one of the trainers. And they put roughly 20,000 people on the river every summer. It's kind of unreal. It's a big place, and actually a couple weeks ago, last week they celebrate their 500,000. So 500,000 people has got access to kayaking through the Downtown Boathouse in the last 10 years. I mean, that's just incredible and unheard of, but that happened. It happened. And it's like, it's mind blowing, but it's good to be a part of that. We're all a part of that, you know. What we do over here is what we're doing over there. Right, Deidre? Right, D? Yeah. Yeah. I see that. You started the downtown boathouse.
Yeah, I was walking down the West Side Highway and I was like, get out of here. There's all these kayaks on the water. And they're like, you could get out there. I'm like, get out of here.
Yeah.
I signed the waiver. I got on for 20 minutes and it wasn't crowded. So they're like, oh, you could stay for a little longer. And I stayed there probably like 2 hours, just like going back and forth in the embayment.
Yeah, it's a great way to introduce people. Get them in the embayment, get them comfortable, and then you do a little trip. You keep pushing it a little bit longer and a little longer. And eventually you can get someone who can do a nice 10-mile one day. And that's what it's about.
Where is that boathouse in Manhattan?
It's in Tribeca. It's at Pier 26, so it's in Tribeca.
Okay, let's make sure Richard gets to ask his question. Richard, go ahead.
Yes, well, Chev, thanks for coming to tell your story. It's amazing. We really appreciate it. How do you manage safety concerns? You must have quite a range of swimming skills and outdoor skills among your participants.
Yeah, so that's so our staff, we're pretty solid. Most of us are ACA instructors, but we've also developed our own local instructor style and curriculum, because the ACA instructor, if you live in Florida, I don't think you fully understand how to certify someone that paddles in the New York Harbor. That's all about local knowledge. So we play a little bit with that as well. So we do like when you get the ACA structure sometimes, because the ACA to me that's another story for another day with them, but it's all love though, no worries. But the ACA structure, and so we put our own style and own stuff in there as well. But we're first aid, CPR, wilderness first aid. Most of us are certified. We practice every Tuesday. We train each other and we do real life rescues if we have to. We train every week. That's how we manage these things, and we run scenarios constantly. And we exercise like hell. It's a full-on camp going on over here. Kids show up and they have to do their 6 laps before they even touch a boat, to show fitness and show that, because the last thing you want is somebody who comes to have a good experience is sneaking off into the river and get into trouble, and then you can't catch up. That's not going to happen. You better be able to catch up to them. That's just what the job requires. But yeah, that's how we really go. We have a lot of procedures that we have. And for our members, you can't go out on your own unless you're safety certified. So you need to go out with about 2 or 3 instructors, different style of instructing. And we test your self-rescue skills and your assisted rescue skills. And no, unless you own your own kayak, no member is allowed to take a kayak and go by themselves. You have to go with someone else. You have to bring a marine radio. You have to wear a life jacket, whistles. You have to write in the book where you're going. You have to drop a float plan. That's kind of how we run the ship there, and that's how we've been able to manage, and we haven't had any incidents yet.
I think Chev is already starting a new day there. It's already Thursday. We might want to let him move on and thank him for a really inspiring session. And I learned a lot and got lots of interesting ideas. And I hope we can follow up with some ideas. And if you have some resources you'd like to share with us of things you found helpful in your career, we would be really interested, and we could distribute them among the club.
Most definitely.
I've already seen in the chat, there's a website that John posted that Chev has. That might be a good starting point for us. So,
Yeah. Oh, Chev has a web. Oh, hey, Mark, that is my personal website. The Hudson River Riders website should be going live. We actually just did a whole renovation on the website, and that's what to have a more of a youthful feel, to attract a younger audience. But that will be, I'll put it in here now, Hudson. And I just put that in as well. The first website, that's just my personal website.
Okay, great.
Negus Outdoors, and that just shows what I'm actually up to. But the Hudson River Riders website is coming soon. And it will be up and running. But if you go on it now, you might just see the old website that we have from 2021. But our new website's coming very soon, and it's going to be awesome.
Okay, we'll keep an eye out for that. And thank you so much for staying out late and helping us out here. We really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem at all. Anytime. I'm not always the quickest when it comes to the emails because I just have 150 things that I'm doing. I don't know, season just started. So whoever, I don't know, who was it that was sending me all these emails? Was it John?
It was probably me.
It was you? Okay. Yeah. Excuse my not responding to your emails on time. I did message Laura and said, you need to worry not. I will be there. If I give you word, I am there. Don't worry about it. Yes. So you don't have to
And
worry.
Chev, everybody wants to know when you're going to come out and paddle with us. We'd love to have you come visit, and I'm
That's-
sure you have many places to stay and many paddling partners.
Well, as long as you can, as long as that's an option, then that's easy. That's easy to do. It's always been about where I'm staying. You know, if I know where I can stay.
Yeah, boats, places to stay.
Awesome. If you can get me a P&H Cetus,
Oh yeah.
only because they gave me a brand new one and they want me to always use their boat, and I like their boats.
Oh yeah, I'm sure we can arrange that.
We have several Cetuses in the club. So, okay.
All right.
Well, thank you everyone who participated tonight. We had a huge cast. Thank you all who participated and all who showed up and stayed with us for the more than 2 hours. And we'll see you next month, July 27th.